some correspondence. Of course, you are aware that sometimes I engage on behalf of the committee or on your behalf with the department, with the MEC and so on. So from time to time, I update you, and he sent those documents through to let you know what we have been busy with. You've received them. If you have any questions, do you have any questions? All right. Please feel free to write to me as well if you have any questions of clarity that you need clarity on. Thank you. Let's just adjourn and we will go into the meeting. Good morning, honorable members, acting HOD and your department, and to our support staff. Welcome to our Cogta Portfolio Committee meeting. Can I just ask that Honorable Basiela open fast in prayer? Has she started? Can I ask you, Verna, to open fast in prayer?
Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this day that we can be gathered here. I pray for every single member and officials from the department, Lord, that even as we continue today, we will have a successful engagement, and let your name be praised. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you so much for that. Over to you, Vusi, for apologies.
Greetings to yourself, Honorable Chairperson. Greetings to the honorable members present here today. Greetings to the acting HOD and fellow staff. Chairperson, we have received some apologies for the meeting taking place today, Chair. I'd like to record the apologies of Honorable Gunene, Honorable Buthelezi, as well as Honorable Madlopa. All the honorable members have indicated they wouldn't be joining us today. We have received replacements or substitutes for the honorable members that are not here today, Chair, in the form of Honorable Nkwanyana. She is here in the place of Honorable Buthelezi, as well as Honorable Dlungwana, who is attending in place of Honorable Madlopa. Chair, we have also received an apology from the Office of the MEC Chairperson. Thanks.
Thank you, Vusi. Welcome to Honorable Kanyana and Dlungwane, Honorable Dlungwane. I understand that you, acting HOD, said that the MEC might be online. Can we get an indication if he's joined online?
Thank you, Chair. He was out in the field, and he did indicate he was joining, so he did come in at 11, and struggled a little with network. But we can try and see if he's there. If not, let's note the apology as
all right. Vusi, if you do see him online, please do alert us. We'd like to have some remarks by the MEC. But we're going to move on. I believe that we are correct. Can we have a mover for the adoption of the agenda? Honorable Browder said, can we have a seconder? Honorable Fraser, thank you so much. We're going to move on to the presentations. Members, we're going to take the first quarter report and then the financials and then the non-financials. I'm going to hand over to the Department of Cogta. Just very quickly, members have read and interrogated the reports. Just give us an overview, especially where there were issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to yourself and the honourable members of the Cogta Portfolio Committee. This is the first quarter report for the 25-26 financial year, and will be taken through that by the Director, Budget and Planning, Ms. Sane Kumalo.
HOD. Good morning, Chairperson and the members of the committee. Yes, I'll be taking you through the financial report for the first quarter. It will cover three aspects, of which we'll be looking at the budget allocation, including the environments, the first quarter financial reporting in terms of the revenue analysis, the expenditure analysis, and the cumulative spending, where we'll cover the infrastructure, the specific allocations, as well as the conditional grant. If we go to slide 3 of the report, you can see that from the 1.931 billion allocation for the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, 3.4 million of that is a specific allocation toward the EPWP conditional grant for provinces, and we have 2 million that is allocated towards the Operation Sugumasake, the OSS. The department currently did not undertake any adjustments to its budget in the first quarter. However, we've just identified the 2.5 million for the reallocation to the Department of Health, of which will only be formalized after the adjustment estimate. That 2.5 million will then reduce the department's budget to 1.928 million, pending the confirmation and the acceptance of the 2.5 million. Going to the revenue performance for the department, we see that the department collected a lot in the first quarter. We achieved the 5.05% in the first quarter in terms of the revenue.
If you could just tell members the slide number that you're on as you go through your presentation.
Yes, that's slide 7. That is highlighting the revenue collection for the department. We collected for 5.01% against the projection, and that is 67.29 in overall against the budget for the revenue. So the over collection there was driven by the deferred vehicle auctions for the old vehicles for the department, the auction that was supposed to take place in the previous financial year, but the collection only happened in the current financial year. Hence, you see that 2.3 million collected in the first quarter. Also, we recovered some grants in one of the municipalities, Umhlatuze, that was originally allocated for the Axfront Bridge. That recovery relates to the transfer that was made in 2014-15 financial year. So also that contributed to the overcollection. Members, I won't go through the other economic classifications for the revenue because we undercollected like the sales of services other than the capital asset. There, the main reason for undercollection was the transformation where the department, there was this transition to digital distribution model for the tender documents. So we are no longer selling the tender documents, and the interest, dividends and rents. There's also an undercollection there since we have not recorded any new debtors. Hence, there was no interest collected under that category. So moving to slide 9, where we are looking at the equitable share, the expenditure for the department. There we see with the department where we spent only 85.71% against the projections, of which is only 21.56% of our budget. That is slightly below the 25% benchmark in the first quarter. That's mainly due to the delays in the recruitment of some posts for the department that we projected to fill in the first quarter, as well as the non-receipt of invoices from the Department of Public Works in relation to some of the leases for the buildings, as well as the rehabilitation of CSCs and TSCs that contributed to the under expenditure. There was also a migration issue with the travel IT system. We had the number of outstanding invoices that we were supposed to pay to them, but they had the system issues on their side, hence they couldn't invoice us accordingly. That explains the under expenditure and the overall under expenditure in the first quarter for the department. If you look at slide 10 to slide 7, that is those explanations are per economic classification, of which most of them are already covered in the summary. The compensation of employees, the under expenditure was mainly due to the delay in the filling of the vacancies. The goods and services, as I've mentioned, the invoices from Department of Public Works. There were also some overestimation in our projections when it comes to the legal fees, and there were some disputes on some other invoices relating to the licenses that had to be sent back, and they will be submitted to the department, hoping we'll pay them in the second quarter. So yes, looking at slide 12, the transfers and subsidies, we don't have much of the transfers, in exception of the ones that we pay for the renewal of the licenses, the departmental fleet in terms of those discs, as well as we did one transfer to UKZN. We transferred fully in relation to the support for the disaster management initiative that we are partnering with UKZN. I've already explained the capital assets, the issue with the non-submission of invoices by the Department of Works that covers the buildings and other fixed structures, and the machinery and equipment. We also recorded an under expenditure there because of the non-renewal of some of the contracts relating to the cell phones. Due to our cost-cutting measures, we are no longer renewing the gadgets when the contract expires. We continue paying for the data and airtime, hence the under expenditure recorded under machinery and equipment. The performance for the slide 14, that shows the performance per program in the department. We have 4 programs. It shows that all of them, they underspent. They were below the 25% benchmarking. So the explanations that I've already provided covers each of those programs, especially the travel IT issue. It's across all the programs. Colleagues, looking at slide 16, the performance for infrastructure, honorable members, that explains the breakdown for the infrastructure projections for the department, where it covers the maintenance and repairs, that caters for the maintenance and repairs in various departments' buildings. Also there we underspent. We see we only spent 16.94% of the annual budget, as also the contributor to Department of Public Works not sending through the invoices in relation to the maintenance that have been undertaken in those buildings. Same applies for the refurbishment and rehabilitations, the new infrastructure, as well as the infrastructure leases. Most of those projects are handled by Department of Public Works. On slide 18, honorable members, we are looking at the specific allocations for the department, where we have 2 million allocated for OSS. Nothing has been spent against that allocation. We are looking at spending in the third quarter as per the plan provided by the ministry. The event that will consume that budget is planned to take place in the third quarter. So we might see the expenditure against that line item. And then we have the remuneration for Izinduna. We spent 54.47% against that specific allocation. Honorable members, the 104 that is reflected there is, the 187.7 million that is reflected there, that's the portion that we are given as a specific allocation, but we top up as a department from our own budget for the payment of Izinduna. So we spent more than half already on that one in the first quarter. The last slide, of which is slide 19, That one is talking to the conditional grant. We only have one grant allocated to Cogta, of which relates to the EPWP. We were allocated 3.4 million. The expenditure that is recorded there has since been journalized, so the department has not spent against the conditional grant. We've only started this project in July, where the expenditure will only be recorded in the second quarter and going forward. So the conditional grant relates to the local government service delivery flagship program that has only been implemented from the 1st of July. Hence, there's no expenditure recorded under that category. Thank you, honourable members. That brings me to the end.
Thank you, Sane. Thank you, honourable members. Chairperson, we just wanted to highlight, in as far as the under expenditure on employee-related costs, all the posts that we had planned to fill in the first quarter are now filled. All recruited employees took up their positions in June and July. We also want to indicate that insofar as the administrative costs with public works we have engaged, so those we will definitely be catching up. And overall, in terms of the under expenditure, there has been no impact of the under expenditure on service delivery of the department. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Can I take hands? Any members with questions? Honorable Basiela. All right.
Experienced, yeah.
Honorable Basiela.
Chair, thank you so much. This is just a contribution arising out of our meeting with Treasury, with Honorable Mtendeni. It's the same point I raised in Treasury, and I learned from the MEC that in every portfolio committee there can be a dashboard. So I think the system of having a dashboard in every department, including Cogta, will give us a method of early warning detection of where there's overspending, underspending, and even irregular spending. So my contribution is essentially that we really need to do that so that we can play a proper role as far as oversight is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members with questions or comments for the department? All right, if members have no questions or comments, let me just have a bite. So the issue of vacant posts, you've covered that. I want to know specifically, what have you done with the Department of Public Works? What arrangement have you made to ensure those invoices come in timeously? Then the burning question for us as members, the concern for us, is this money that's going towards Department of Health. How are you going to deal with this this budget cut to your department? And we were deliberating earlier, and members said, we need to get Treasury in here to come and chat to us about why this is happening, because from the Section 132 hearings that we've been doing and moving around, we can see that your department needs a lot of budget, because the kind of support that we are requesting that you give to municipalities and the kind of oversight in terms of Section 106 investigations and keeping a closer eye on your impact committees and your impact chairs and so on, you need budget for that. And we were quite disappointed to hear when we were in Ngoma that there was some lack of funding and you were unable to provide the support in terms of the indigent debtors, assistance to the municipality in terms of the indigent debtors. So we can see, as members, we can see clearly that there is a need for more budget. But on the other hand, we also understand that Treasury has priorities in terms of health, education, and so on. So one of the ideas that I want to propose is, you have mentioned to us at the last meeting that one of the things that would relieve this department is if the traditional leaders are paid by National Treasury. So we want a report of where that is currently, the dialogue surrounding the move, because we need to put pressure in terms of that. Because as members, when we go on the ground, we can see how municipalities are struggling. We can also see the level of corruption. And if we're not going to have additional budget in Cogta, you're not going to be able to do your job on the ground. And then we're going to come back and hold you accountable. But we also understand that you don't have the budget to do what you need to do. So we need to prioritize this. And then secondly, a while back in our last budget debate, I think it was the previous one, the one we had at first, I mentioned that what we need to do is we need to look for additional funding. And one of the ways we can do that, we understand that at least 80% of the budget is going towards the traditional leadership of Cogta's budget. So you're not left with much. And from what I've heard now, you mentioned that you've taken from the baseline to top up the traditional leaders' budget as well for the traditional council secretaries. And I've seen that you've now introduced pension as well. So you're introducing more things towards the traditional leaders, which we don't have a problem with. But our problem is that there's no additional budget to support municipalities. So we need to find a solution. So I want to propose that as a department, you go and investigate similar ideas to the one I proposed, where we could use the traditional land and develop co-ops where traditional indigenous people can actually get dividends off the land. Because what we have is similar to models in other countries where there is land. We just need to use the land and generate income so that we take the pressure off the Cogta budget, because we can't really see any more money coming into this budget. We need to take the pressure off this budget so that we have more money for municipalities, for small town rehabilitation, corridor development, and so on, which is ultimately going to help our people on the ground. So come up with ideas. We'll table that as a resolution of this committee. Come up with ideas, and then also we can have our own research as well, do some research. We'll put the ideas together. As a committee, we'll look at them, unpack them, deliberate on them, and find the best ideas so that we can move forward in terms of generating income for this particular department. There is a concern for us, and we don't want to come across as being insensitive and not caring of the traditional leaders. I do think that it would be really, really good if they are able to be paid by National Treasury. If we can sort that out, that will be very good for our province. On the other hand, we also had earlier, Honorable Kaba raised the issue of traditional leaders that were incorporated into KZN that are still yet to be paid. If you could touch on that. Then there was the issue of the ongoing system integration issues between BAS version 6 and Tour West booking. If you can touch on that, what the issues are and whether that's resolved. See you making a note, so let me just go through all my. Your software licenses, how are you going to deal with future issues, misclassification and currency conversion delays and so on, because it's going to affect your target achievements. And there was one more. How are you going to also deal with late submissions of travel, catering, lease invoices that contribute to underspending in goods and services? I think I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much, Chair. I will start and I'll allow Ms. Khumalo to add as appropriate. I think insofar as Department of Public Works is concerned, we have engaged them. I think they were finalizing with the contractors that did the work on our behalf, and they needed to actually do the site inspections and deal with the snag lists. So that is finalized from their part. I think we should be receiving the invoices. They have indicated that they never have a problem with Cogta paying them. And this time they need the money, but they haven't come forth. So that should be resolved. We should not have a problem going forward. As far as the Department of Health is concerned, I think as a province, we have to believe that it is an all of government challenge. So as Cogta, we had to try and make a contribution. In fact, the call has been made 3 times to all departments to see what it is we can come up with to support the Department of Health. There is a recovery plan in place for the Department of Health, or in the process of being refined. And that's work in progress. But there's an immediate crisis. And the immediate crisis is that we're losing lives because the Department of Health does not have specialists to perform procedures on seriously ill citizens. We have the facilities, so we have first-class facilities, we have the theaters, we have the equipment, but we don't have the specialists. And that is the call that was made to say, please, let's work as a province to address that crisis at this point in time. Let's work collectively. It's about us having to manage cash flow. We've done it as a department, but I think as a province holistically, it's what we should be doing is managing the cash flow. So if you had the finance debate this morning, MEC was saying if we don't have the money, we can't spend the money. And that's what we've done as Cogta. We went back and we did a zero-based budget where we said, this is all that we have. So certain projects will have to be put out to later. Certain projects will have to be cancelled. We, for example, cancelled 2 projects to the value of 80 million rand for new offices in Ikopo and in Umzanyati district. And those are the hard decisions we've had to make. The amount we've put up for Department of Health in the context of our broader budget is 0.05% or 0.01%. It's minuscule. What we did was we looked at all of our operational costs, and we said, let's implement cost containment in these particular areas, advertising, those nice to haves. And let's try and be more efficient as well in terms of how we do it. We've made the funds available on the proviso that should the Department of Health receive an additional allocation from National, then Treasury will reimburse us our funding at that point in time. So that was the submission that we made. We have, I think, Chair, you really have expressed our needs quite extensively. We're a department that offers services, technical advice, technical guidance, and our philosophy is municipalities shouldn't appoint consultants. If they need a financial expert and they need financial advice, they must come to Cogta. We must be the experts. So we've prioritized the filling of senior management posts and technical posts for that particular reason. But there are times when we need to put an expert in the field full-time to do certain things. And that's where we don't have the money to offer that level of support, intense support that may be required in a municipality. The example of the indigent and the debt revenue enhancement program, we spent 12 million rand 2 years ago on this project in 4 municipalities. We cleansed their debtors' data. We dealt with the indigency. We were able to bring in 56 million rand with a 12 million rand investment for the likes of Newcastle, Danhauser, Umdoni, and Harigwala district. So we know the value of some of these projects for municipalities and the return that it will get. But with the limited funding we have, we cannot do some of those innovative things that you were suggesting, Chair, that we look at. We were also saying maybe we need a provincial portal to maintain debtors' data so that we can do validations like the Credit Bureau does. And then municipalities can chase after the money that is out there that should be paid to them by people who have Edgar's accounts and DSTV, but will not pay for basic services. And those are some of the things that we were really exploring, and we'd like to work with the researchers to do that. On the issue of funding for Amakosi and Izinduna and the Institution of Traditional Leadership, we have tried to balance it. We are keenly aware that there has been very little to no investment in terms of economic growth and development in the rural communities. And we are saying through the traditional leadership, it's the best way to promote local economic development there. So we are doing some local economic development. The costs that we incur as far as the payroll of Amakosi and Izinduna was fundamentally an unfunded budget that was received as a result of the implementation of the Traditional Khoisan Leadership Act and the decisions nationally for the stipend payments and so on. And that is something that we are still working to recover from. And I don't think we ever will unless there's an injection into our budget. The cost is 24% of our budget, 400 million rand, goes to the cost of Amakosi and Izinduna stipends and a basic salary. That's it. As far as, and they are on our payroll, they are able to take up medical aid and pension funds on their own. And what we found, of the 300 Amakosi that are on the payroll, 35 of them opted for medical aid. And I don't know how it's happened, but the medical aids that they chose and the cost of the medical aids that they chose were extremely high. I think there were a few that were paying more than what I pay for medical aid. And I was like, maybe they've been sold something, too much. So we did the exercise and we said if 10% are taking up medical aid, by the time the 300 take up medical aid, we will not be able to afford the medical aid contribution as government. And so what we then did is we negotiated for better rates. We've got an excellent rate. We've got also a pension, which is below what ordinarily, or it's above what ordinarily would have been received. For example, we got concession from the medical aid for all Amakosi, no matter your age. So there's no waiting period of 3 months or 1 year. They immediately get cover. They get with that a family benefit if they have to pass away. They get all prescribed minimum conditions covered, plus an additional cancer benefit over and above that, which is more than some other medical aids. They can go into any private hospital. So, and for the price that we got, it was phenomenal. So we got three different packages, and the one that we got was far lower. The total cost of that package for Amakosi and Izinduna, for Amakosi, the 300 Amakosi, is 17 million per annum, which is small in comparison to what is being paid on the staffing side if you had to look at the comparatives. The 17 million we are taking from internal savings. Members may not know we are currently leasing Southern Life Plaza at a cost of 21 million rand per annum. Southern Life Plaza in the middle of town, 21 million rand per annum. We've just notified Public Works that we'll be cancelling that lease as at November. So we will be out of there in November. The space norms have been reduced. So an HOD doesn't need 40 square meters. An HOD might only need 20 square meters. And different levels of staff require less in terms of the space norms. So we are condensing. We will be able to accommodate staff in the buildings that we currently have, Mayville, Natalia, and Wadley. We are negotiating with education for some additional space in Natalia. That's where the funding is coming from. So we're saving money to do more and to prioritize those key priorities that we need to. Outside funding is always an option. We have partnered on the disaster management side to try and bring in resources because we don't have sufficient funding. So that has been the start. And yes, I think other opportunities for rural economic development we will certainly look at. The big budget items, your water, sanitation, electricity, roads, those are the areas where we are trying to now working with National Department of Cooperative Governance to say the infrastructure grants have to be used better. They have to be applied better. We have to get economies of scale, economies of scope, and we have to try and see how we save money. So, and apart from that, we have to be strategic about the investment in the province. Rather than, doing 10 small projects, it might help us to do one big project, which is going to unlock either economic potential or service delivery to a broader community. So we are doing that through the re-establishment of the Municipal Business Plan Appraisal Committee in the province. And we then saw, for example, that municipalities were spending 6 million rand on a creche. And yes, you spend the creche, but then Department of Education doesn't have money to fund teachers for that creche. So it becomes a white elephant. So we've said, no, only when Department of Education commits to the teacher will we fund the creche. In the meantime, we will use that money for water and electricity and sanitation. And those are the kinds of practical things we are doing to try and do more with less. I think I will then, on the issue of the Amakosi Incorporated, it's Umzimkulu, that we are aware of. We have done we are busy with the process of confirmation with Umdeni in terms of which households are affected. We are also confirming Izinduna, and we are doing the ISI to enable, in order to confirm Izinduna, we have to do Izikodi mapping. So we are confirming Izikodi as well. There has been consideration of a separation of certain areas and therefore allocation of land, because the other issue is the allocation of land to certain Amakosi. So that's a matter that is in progress. There have been, the MEC personally met with Amakosi in Harigwala district and the Umzimkulu area. And there are ongoing discussions. And with the technical work that we are doing to support that, I think it's Mfulamehlo, if I'm not mistaken, that we're talking about. But as soon as we've completed with that process, we will then put the submission through to the Provincial Executive Council, making recommendations. And then once that is done, the issue on the ground will be resolved. We do appreciate that it has been a long drawn out issue, but we have prioritized it from our side. Yeah, I'll allow you to talk to the classifications and the submissions and the Tour Western Bass issues, Sane.
Thank you, HOD. Thank you, Chairperson. In terms of the migration process, I would come to say that has been resolved. And also on travel IT side, because it was not only the migration from best system V5 to V6. Travel IT was also doing their own migration in terms of their whole system. That also delayed, because even after the migration process in terms of BES was already resolved, but they still had their problem on their side to proper do the correct interfacing. But they've confirmed that has since been resolved, and we've already processed some of their invoices from the outstanding ones. And in terms of making sure that the invoices that are being submitted late or received late, we fast track that. We did look at that as finance together with FCM and creditors, that we need to work closely with the business, the responsibility managers in business units, because they need to take accountability on this, because they submit the projections. So in making the follow up, in making sure that the service providers do submit the invoices on time, SCM creditors as well as the responsibility managers from the business unit will work in that going forward. I'm not sure whether I'm leaving anything out, HOD. Or the software licenses, the classifications, asset management and IT. And now we've just created a spreadsheet to look at the lifespan or the end date of all the licenses, in making sure that we correctly categorize them going forward. So there's a spreadsheet in place that has been structured or formulated by OIT within Cogta. We are working on that. Maybe after the adjustment estimate, that will be classified, all of them classified correctly. Thank you.
Honorable Ngadi, questions? Follow up. All right, let's have Honorable Fraser, Honorable Zuma, and Honorable Broutse. And then I see Honorable Dulungwane. Okay, let's go.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Let me start by appreciating the initiatives in terms of the medical aid packages, but one would like to check whether the department have done some benchmarking, if that can be shared with us in terms of how other provinces are doing it. And also, Chair, would like to have at least have enough time to be taken through with these new initiatives, like maybe in a workshop. I mean, a lot of good things has been said, so would like to be given information to that effect. Then the second one, last time we heard that the department is still busy with the Mizizizwe. If we can be appraised on how far with that. Then, because in my other life, I serve in the OTP, I just want to check whether, okay, I've mentioned earlier on that we had in the Finance Portfolio Committee that there are posts that are blocked by OTP. I heard the HOD mentioning that why they also have the posts that are not filled. But I wanted to be clear that it has got nothing to do with the OTP in their part, so that we don't have that conversation in the committee. Then the last one, I think I'm a bit confused concerning that one of ECD and Cogta. That one I did not understand. If I can be cleared on that one. The one for crashes and yeah.
I think Honorable Fraser wanted clarity on how that fits.
Yeah, on that one I was puzzled. Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Fraser. Before Honorable Zuma speaks, Acting HOD, we're going to inform your department of a date where we require workshop on each program, unpacked in a very informal way. So members, it's interactive and members can ask questions and find their way. So please have that on your list of preparations. Honorable Zuma.
Chairperson, honorable members, officials, Ganbudis. My question, I've got two questions. The first one, ngicela ukuzwa ngendaba yezinduna ukuqashwa kwazo ukuthi i-period yabo i-renewal noma nje intararantaba. I know that they are attached to the amakhosi, but kade ngibuka nje ukuthi izinduna ukufa kwazo izinduna kangaka ngathi kubangwa le stipend ngendlela engibona ngoba baqashwa nje abanye bafuna ukungena abanye bafuna ukuphuma i-period yabo ithini oqala lokho inhlambi i-contract yabo ngangichazela. Number 2 is the head counter of izinduna. I think so before you said to us the MEC is you'll go around making a head counting of izinduna. Ngikade ngicela ukuzwa ukuthi how far about that head counting, because ngiyabuka ukuthi enye imali iyalahleka lapho. Siyabonga.
Thank you, Honorable Bratisek.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, we were discussing earlier initiatives to try and make the Amakosi more self-sustaining and generate their own funds. So this was raised in our indirectly in our engagement with the Treasury this morning. One of the issues was raised was the Amakosi Resource Mobilization Initiative, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And the whole idea there was that Cogta would provide, would procure items such as mobile fridges, tents, and plastic chairs to be used by the Amakosi to raise funds for local events. So 2 primary questions came out of that. How's that going? How much money has it generated? And then the other question was, how is it being taken or by the communities involved? Because if the Amakosi are doing it, then obviously local providers cannot. And how is that going down? But I think it's important that we have an idea of how that particular initiative is going, and hopefully it's doing well, and hopefully it wasn't a waste of money. If you could just let us know how that's going. Thanks.
Honorable Dlongwane.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson. Greetings to you, honorable members, Cogta, and our team from the Legislature. By and large, Chair, I have been covered, but by Honorable Zuma, because I wanted to drill a bit deeper with regard to the issue of izinduna. Now, the first question has been asked, what is the term? And if the answer is 5 years, has the 5 years not lapsed since they were put in? And what is the process? I know that they were supposed to have been community elections. Why they have not been held? When are they going to be held? In those community elections. The other question relates to the medical aid and related, the 17 million we are being told, which we are told that is small. I do not know. I do not know if it's small, but I want to understand if then they are taken as employees, isn't it? They are employees. If yes, do we have performance contracts or agreements in place? If they are not taken as employees, what are they taken as? If they are not employees, now they are being paid. How are we managing the times when they are on duty and when they are not on duty? How is that process is being managed? I know probably this, I'm asking too many questions, but if I recall very well, in terms of the law, is the remuneration of traditional leaders and headmen. Do we regard, according to Cogta, headmen as izinduna in its entirety, or something happened? I'm sorry, I do not serve in this portfolio committee. I might not have many answers or more knowledge as members that would serve in this portfolio committee. By the way, I'm induna myself in my area. Abafuna indawo nje, they can come to me. Lapha ngiyabeka. Ngiyabeka lapha kwaNcamalala. Ngiyinduna impela. So I'm saying, Chair, you know, some of these questions, they might not really be answered or unpacked, all of them here. I'm asking them deliberately to see if how or to what extent our colleagues will be able to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Tlungwane. You raised some very important points, most especially the traditional leaders election. We were told in December that it would be in February, and we are now in August. So we need to know why that has not taken place. In addition to that, we do need to know what is the code of conduct, what are the requirements, because anytime you are remunerated or given a stipend, there should be some sort of exchange. And, you know, from talking to councillors on the ground, there's a number of municipalities where the traditional leaders do not even attend. Do we have a register of attendance for traditional leaders? What kind of oversight are we performing in terms of this? Over to you, Acting HOD, if you could try to wrap it up as concisely as possible, because we want to deal with the Section 106 and we've got till 1. Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to the honourable members for the questions. I think, Honourable Fraser, in terms of the benchmarking, yes, we did do benchmarking across the country. We also specifically looked at Mpumalanga, Northwest and Eastern Cape. They are paying their Provincial House of Traditional Leaders, and they have all benefits for them. They are also, other provinces are also fully implementing what was the draft handbook for Amakosi, which then also provides significant tools of trade. And it was a trade-off between, do you provide a car? What is the need of Amakosi in the province? And therefore, this was then discussed at an extended Provincial House meeting, and Amakosi said these were their needs. So there are issues about we still need tools of trade and other things which we were not able to provide. So yes, that benchmarking is ongoing. National has now looked at the package that we have done. And they are already engaging with other provinces in terms of the rollout of that, as well as engaging National Treasury in terms of the funding model for overall funding model for, as we say, the payroll, because it was not covered at all. It was not covered at all. Imizi Zizwe, yes, is still in place. We've not been able to invest in any more. We currently have stopped the program due to a lack of funding, but we will continue to pick that up if we need to, provided that obviously we are able to get some funding in that regard. The posts with the OTP, Honourable Fraser, it's not that OTP is blocking posts. There was a DPSA circular issued that said that all posts needed to be re-evaluated. So job evaluations need to be done before you fill the post. So as Cogta, we made sure all our posts were filled before we had to then do job evaluations again. For the next round of recruitment. And what we've then done is we've identified which posts are critical posts to be filled. We are then doing the job evaluation. Either the job evaluation panel sits, meets, and considers the job descriptions and does the evaluation, or we benchmark with other similar posts. There is therefore a delay in the recruitment process. And the job evaluation panel is probably also inundated. The issue of creches, Honorable Fraser, is the MIG funding can be used for creches as one of the types of projects that municipalities implements. So it's an infrastructure grant. Correct, municipalities implementing infrastructure grants, but there is oversight, and Cogta, both provincial and national, are part of the approval process of business plans, and that's where it fits in. I think on the process of recognition of Izinduna, I think Honorable Duma is correct. Amakosi nominate Izinduna. And it is not Cogta that does so. Izinduna also then, once they are nominated by Amakosi, it has to go through to the Provincial Executive Council for approval and recognition of Induna. When that happens, then it is gazetted. And it's only at the time of gazetting that Cogta will then take on the Induna onto the payroll. So that's the process that we are undertaking. And I think you alluded to the fact that there is a head count, because remember, we do get audited by the AG, even though they are not employees, Honorable Dlungwana. They are not employees. They, because the state is paying money, the auditors will audit. And we've now got a system where Amakosi and Izinduna are comfortable with the headcount. It is Nkosi who confirms on a monthly basis that Induna is in place. It is also Nkosi who confirms if there is a death. If Induna passes away, advises the department for salary stops and so on. So we do have that system in place. And you're right, Honorable Zuma, we are undertaking now the current confirmation of all Izinduna. We have completed eThekwini, I think Ugu district and Amajuba district, if I'm not mistaken. 3 districts are complete. And we've indicated, and we've just been to cabinet a week ago, and I think we are appointing 35 Izinduna, recognizing 35 Izinduna through that process. So we hope to have that concluded in this quarter, but we're not waiting for the full suite to be done. We're doing it per district, and we're going to cabinet as we are doing them to fast track it. On the Amakosi Resource Mobilization Program, Honorable Brown said, there's 2 elements to that program. One is the economic development element, and the other is the fact that Amakosi, some of them are having meetings in dilapidated, rundown buildings or in the field. And we said that that is the first part is for economic development. The second part is for use by the community. We cannot put enough CSCs out there. We cannot put enough halls out there, community facilities out there. So we said this will also be used by the local community as a community facility. You know, if somebody has to pass away, you needed the burial, then you would be able to also utilize that. We haven't done a full assessment of the revenue generated. It's something that, and we will do. We've only covered 2 districts so far, Umkanyakude district and Ilembe district, and that's because of a lack of funding as well. So we haven't covered all districts, but we've said we'll roll it out per quarter and cover it in that way. And as we then conclude on that, we will be able to do some form of assessment on the revenue generated. I think on the term of office of Izinduna and the processes of removal, again, it is Nkosi, and it's similar to what you find in the Companies Act. There's really 3, there's misconduct and specific issues for which you can remove an Induna. And in fact, we have a number of cases that have been submitted to Cogta where Nkosi is unhappy with Induna and wants to remove Induna. But we're saying you can't just remove Induna. There has to be a procedure, and there has to be substantive reasons and procedural fairness in the process as well. So in fact, our legal services department is mediating or actually hearing some of these, if you would call them. They're not, technically we wouldn't call them disciplinary hearings, but they're technically hearings of that nature to deal with issues of misconduct and so on. The TC elections were meant to be held, the elections were meant to be held by February. The National Department approached the Constitutional Court for an extension of time, and they were given an extension of 2 years. So the TC elections must take place by the end of 2027. Processes are underway to do that. The cost of TC elections, the quotation we got 2 years ago was 47 million rand. So we would have to pay 47 million rand as a province just to run the election. And that is something that we are busy working on. I think we would use the IEC, or you can use an election agency. And in fact, the department had engaged an election agency previously for this purpose, and then the court challenge came along. I think what's important in terms of looking at Amakosi and Izinduna and their role and their performance of that role and the institutional arrangements for managing and monitoring that. We must recognize that they are in place due to customary law. And so all of the processes, the systems, the procedures for the defining of the role and the work that is performed comes from that customary law. Yes, we can say we need performance agreements and so on. We are now at least getting the head counts right, and we know that they are there serving their communities, and there is confirmation of that. But it's similar to councillors, where we also don't have a performance agreement for a councillor. In terms of what role, ward councillors, what roles are you performing? What functions are you performing? So it's something that I think, Honourable Dlungwana, is something that needs to be dealt with at a policy level. And we need to find expression for that practically. But I think what we see on the ground will inform the processes that we need to undertake. So that's where we are. As far as headman, as is Induna, I think in KZN, we have a somewhat different structure to what it is reflected in the Traditional and Khoisan Leadership Act. And the issue of senior traditional leader, headman, and all of those things were a challenge. But we have been able to resolve it in the province and together with the provincial house. So there is a clear distinction of what the Izinduna role is and what the Nkosi role is. I think the code of conduct requirements, I think on the councillor side, we have a very clear schedule to the Structures Act, which says this is the code of conduct for councillors. There is somewhat of a code of conduct for traditional leadership also included in the national legislation. And we are currently looking at the Provincial Act also to review it. That's a process we haven't yet commenced, but it is something that we are looking at. And these are areas I think that we could try to infuse into the legislation going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Acting HOD. Members, I think that we've sufficiently covered that, but we'll have opportunity when we do have a workshop to further interrogate the issue of traditional leaders. We're going to move on to, we'll note these two reports, and we're going to move on to the Section 106 report.
Thank you, Chair. I'll ask Mr. Scavender to take us through that report briefly.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Greetings, honourable members, to my colleagues. Noting the issue of time, Honourable Chair and members, I'll take it that the report is read. I will just take you through some of the critical issues that we've raised in the report. Noting firstly that in the background, we've set out the legislative mandate of the MEC and his statutory obligation in terms of Section 106 to investigate fraud, corruption, maladministration, and statutory non-compliance in municipalities. We also set out in the background the fact that the MEC, upon taking up office, was obviously met with and inundated with numerous allegations from various sources. He also then inherited a number of delayed investigations as well as a number of preliminary investigations which were being conducted by the department. That being said, the MEC was steadfast in his approach in terms of us expediting the treatment of investigations in the department, and there were various directives that were issued by the MEC in order for us to start improving efficiencies with regard to investigations, noting that there are challenges, and we have set out those challenges in the report. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them. In fact, that is not even a closed list of the challenges that we experience with regard to forensic investigations in municipalities. But considering those challenges that we have set out in the report, which include the issue of the legal framework, its inadequacy, the capacity constraints, the cooperation issues, issues relating to record keeping, the duress, the environment that these investigations that are conducted in, the MEC directed that we improve our efficiencies together with the litigation that we face with regard to investigations as well as implementation of forensic reports. So the directive then was to basically improve efficiencies by re-strategizing the environment, the policy environment as well, by putting in place draft legislation, which I think we have already brought to the committee at one stage, the Investigations and the Integrity Management Bill, which we did brief the Portfolio Committee on previously. That is at an advanced stage now, and the bill has been submitted for certification. There are also some policy considerations within the department as well, which we have looked at in terms of our framework and the manner in which these investigations are conducted. We've also had to review the service delivery model. The department is in the process of re-looking at its service delivery model, which includes looking at the capacity and the competencies within the forensic unit to both investigate as well as manage investigations within municipalities. That being said, honourable members, the MEC himself has only authorised 4 investigations thus far in the province. Those are listed: KwaZulu-Natal, Nongoma, and Msunduzi and Mkanyakude. With regard to KwaZulu-Natal and Nongoma, those investigations are actually quite far ahead. We have issued RFIs. We have done the analysis with regard to the documents. Interviews have been conducted and are also proceeding in some. With regard to Nongoma, we've had to do some follow-up interviews as well. So those investigations are proceeding, and we're at the stage where investigation reports would be finalized before the end of August. With regard to Msunduzi, there have been challenges. And initially, when the investigation was introduced to council, we were met with resistance in terms of the provision of documentation after the RFI was issued. In fact, there was correspondence that was sent to the MEC, albeit delayed. indicating that the municipality is considering its legal recourse in respect of the investigation. So essentially, the municipality, in a passively aggressive way, resisted the investigation. But at the same time, after declaring a dispute with the municipality, also raising the fact that it is considering its legal recourse, then also indicated that we will provide you with documents. But this was only in July, after the investigation was introduced in March. Subsequently, we have received 75% of the documents requested, but that is not nearly enough for even draft preliminary findings to be made. Even the analysis that has been done thus far is not sufficient for us to have a full list of interviewees who we may want to look at to finalize preliminary findings. With regard to Mkhanyakude, that investigation is also underway. We have issued an RFI. The latest we have as at yesterday is that the municipal manager has indicated that he will be providing documents to the investigators. Then in terms of the critical question, which was the Umzumbe report, I think, which came up in the recent oversight visits. Yes, indeed, there is a report for Umzumbe municipality. That report is a very old report. Investigations were concluded. That investigation, we've made preliminary findings as well as recommendations. The MEC has had to obviously look at the legal and practical consequences of or impact of the report, it now being concluded in 2019. The MEC has considered that report, and we will be taking further directive in terms of the way forward with regard to tabling that report. As I indicated, the MEC has inherited that, and we've had to look at the legal and the practical consequences of those reports. I must indicate, however, though, that with regard to the report, as even if a report is as far back as 2019, and there have been many of those in the past, be it from Cogta, from Treasury, the SIU, whomever. These reports, however, still have value, in my view. There are recommendations in those reports for criminal reporting of instances where we have found criminal conduct. And in my view, I think those reports will still be considered for further implementation and consequence management. That, in a nutshell, honourable members, is our report. And I hand it back over to you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Members, do you have questions? Okay, Honourable Brauteset, Honourable Ngadi, and Honourable Basiela. All right. Honourable Brauteset.
Thank you, Chairperson. So Section 106 of the Municipal Systems Act is what we're obviously dealing with here. What in your experience and in your scope of knowledge compels municipalities to comply with instructions from the MEC in this regard? It's clear that the MEC may take certain actions in terms of Section 106, but if the municipality just says we're not complying, and does all of the things listed in the reports, you know, threatening death and et cetera, which is all extremely real. Can you tell us what the MEC should be doing in a situation like that?
Thank you. Let's take.
What can the MEC to do to compel cooperation? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Brauteset. Let's take Honourable Ngadi. We've got just a few minutes left, and then Honourable Basiela.
Yes. Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. Greetings to yourself, honourable members, and management. Thank you. One, I'm a bit. It's a bit concerning on the timing with regards to the two municipalities. I know she has cited, because I was concerned about the commencement date for Umzumba, which is in 2019, versus to the current situation, of which the timelines are actually a bit of an issue. So as Umngeni, because it's just been tabled in the 14th of April to cancel, I think we need to look at that one in terms of the timelines. And the last one, I just want you to take the process on the Section 106 in this manner. The department will complete the report of the Section 106 and make a recommendation for council to adopt, to take a decision on that Section 106 for implementation. Now, my question is, does the department make a follow-up after the decision of the council to see whether those resolutions of the council gets implemented? That's what I wanted to check on that one, because I've got some case studies in the past, which I will not reflect it now in this meeting, but I wanted to check the legitimacy on the process on that one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Ngadi. That's actually an excellent question. That was on my mind as well, because I also have a number of councillors, residents write to me from the various municipalities. And one of them was the Utukela municipality, where recommendations are not being implemented. So as a committee, we need that report of which municipalities that have these Section 106 investigations are not implementing the recommendations and why. They need to account. Honorable Basiela.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the other municipalities, except Mzunduzi, I can write to you and to the HOD to request copies of the terms of reference and the actual commission. But regarding Mzunduzi and their failure to cooperate, what we know is that the MEC invokes Section 106 when there's fraud, when there's maladministration, corruption, serious malpractice. Through the media, as well as through whistleblower reports, which we ourselves have been involved in conveying, it seems that it certainly is a prima facie case, which means that if there is no cooperation from the, or very little cooperation from the municipality, why can't this municipality, why can't criminal charges be pressed against this municipality? Because then it would go through a criminal process, investigating officers will be employed, and there will be no question of asking for certain reports. They will have more teeth to be able to go in and seize hard drives, seize computers, and get information so that justice can be done. We know the specific problems and complaints in Mduzi. It is absolutely serious. I don't think that the 106 was warranted. It ought to have been criminal proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Basiela. And we're coming to a close, but I just want to touch on some key issues, especially the timelines that Honorable Ngadi raised. If you look at all of these historical investigations, and we see that they've only recently been tabled in the different councils, we cannot leave this to go on indefinitely without some sort of time frame. If as a department you can give us some time frame as to when you anticipate that you will conclude these matters, because we all understand that if they go on and on, evidence becomes lost, witnesses move away, and so it becomes challenging in order to execute justice. And one of the cries of this committee is that in this province, the wheel of justice and consequence management is extremely slow. So we want to have regular updates in terms of Section 106 investigations. The other issue I had with Utukela is that I believe that there's not been a final report. There's a draft report still in place in terms of the findings. And so I'm told that the SIU cannot proceed without a final report because it's in the draft stage, but perhaps you can touch on that. I'll give you a few minutes to touch on that. But what I want is I'm going to ask a few more questions. If we could get a follow-up report, and you can answer those questions in the report that you'll bring to the committee in the next meeting. So one of them is, do you have a question? All right. All right. I know that you have this Investigations Integrity Management Bill. How, if you could just explain to us in your following report, how it's going to deal with the legislative gaps and strengthen enforcement. I've touched on the timelines. What is the department doing to protect whistleblowers and witnesses, given the reported threats to their safety? What steps are being taken to prevent municipal officials from evading accountability through transfers or resignations? How will the department address its own capacity and structural weaknesses identified in the 2019 Provincial Treasury Audit? And what mechanisms will ensure municipalities implement forensic investigations recommendations once reports are tabled? Now, we know from our discussions in the various municipalities is you don't really want it to come to a Section 106 investigation. You want to deal with it before it comes to this, in terms of internal disciplinary boards and so on, and municipal managers performing their oversight. So what are you doing as a department to ensure that there is consequence management and, you know, dealing with corruption and maladministration before it comes to this sort of advanced report request for investigation? Honorable Fraser.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe, Chair, the question should be why the Otugela is not implementing the recommendations on their yes, I believe they are done with their Section 106 report. Thank you.
If you could just briefly respond. Okay.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Thank you, honourable members. With regard to the first question, in terms of what compels municipalities to actually comply, I just want clarity on that. Comply with the forensic reports in respect of implementation, or comply with the investigation. So I'll deal with both because I wasn't too sure. In terms of municipalities complying and cooperating with investigations, there's nothing. There's nothing in the law that compels municipalities to comply with any forensic investigation that's in place. Section 106 gives the MEC the authority to investigate where he is of the view, or where he suspects that fraud, corruption, or maladministration is taking place. And there are provisions in Section 106 that also allow the national minister to request the MEC to investigate upon the reasonable belief of fraud, corruption, or maladministration. The legislation has been changed along the way, right up until 2022, where the only addition that the legislature, the national legislature, have included in 106 is a provision which sort of compels municipalities to implement consequence management, but only so far as it relates to disciplinary action, and not any other aspect of the report, be it criminal reporting, be it civil recovery, be it policy review, so on and so forth. So Section 106, as far as I'm concerned, is, in my view, really does need some panel beating, because it does not allow or give the MEC any teeth in respect of enforcement. What is provided for in the law where municipalities fail to fulfill their executive obligations, and I'm only saying this in respect of implementing forensic reports and implementing consequence management emanating from forensic reports, and so far as it relates to disciplining senior managers and officials within municipalities, in my view, there is recourse there are interventions, but I do know that that is for Section 1391Bs. Obviously must be under extreme circumstances where municipalities fail to fulfill executive obligations. There could be directives that are issued by the Provincial Executive Council, but that is not the MEC's recourse. That is a decision that's taken by a Provincial Executive Council. So essentially, the law does not provide any recourse in Section 106 that compels municipalities to cooperate or to implement the forensic reports. The recourse that the MEC does have, however, is litigation, and that comes at a cost. And again, that's taxpayers' money where we have to go to court and compel municipalities either through orders or declaratory orders to enforce the investigation. In terms of timelines, I agree, honourable members. Thank you so much. This is something that we have grappled with from the beginning, from the onset. The timeframes are erratic as a result of the challenges that we experienced during the course of investigations. I'm not going to go through all of the issues that impact the timeframes, but what I'm going to say is that the legislation now, since its amendment, allows you 90 days within which to complete the investigation. So we are trying our utmost to stick to those 90 days so that we are able to deliver a full-on forensic report within the 90 days. But I must be honest with you, it becomes a difficult task when you do not get the cooperation of witnesses in those investigations, even complainants at some stage who back down due to various reasons. The documents that are not provided by municipalities, which then impacts the rate at which you complete your findings. There's no point in looking at SEM transactions and the appointment of service providers in respect of capital projects or infrastructure projects if you cannot get the supply chain documents that you need to analyze so that you get to interview the relevant officials who may be implicated in those investigations. So timelines, yes, we agree. We are looking then through the integrity bill to streamline and to close that gap which talks to the timeframes. And then also on the issue of capacity, we definitely need to bulk up the capacity so that we have the kind of manpower that goes in and also the kind of resources that go in and look at things like one of the biggest areas which we struggle with are capital and infrastructure projects. And the largest playing field for fraudsters and corrupt activities sits in infrastructure projects and grant funding and the expenditure on that grant funding. But there's no point in me making findings on an infrastructure project if I'm a lawyer who's looking at bills of quantities and I cannot assess the work on the ground because I'm not a quantity surveyor. So that is the kind of capacity we need, and we need to make sure we either have or we source in order to make cogent and clear findings on those critical things where we are picking up fraud, corruption, and maladministration. On the issue of non-cooperation, I think I dealt with that. With regard to the Utukela report, that was a final report that was tabled in council. The report was considered by council as well. As far as I know, they have taken steps to implement, including the blacklisting of one of the companies where we made recommendations that the company be blacklisted, which has then led to a litany of litigation again in respect by that relevant service provider. So I'm not sure, ma'am, where that information is being sourced from, or whoever's giving you that information may be perhaps ill-informed. The bill, Chair, as you indicated in the next report, we will provide you with the detail around the bill and how we intend to use the bill to close the gaps that we have currently with regard to investigations. Together with the issue of the protection of whistleblowers, we will deal with that in the follow-up report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Govan, and thank you again, members, for the report. I think I just want to touch on a couple of issues, the issue of capacity within the unit and the report of the Provincial Treasury. Since that report, Chairperson, I think we've filled, is it 4 or 5 posts? 4 posts, which include an investigator, and prosecutors. So we have beefed up the departmental capacity. With forensic investigation, it's one of those lag indicators. You wait for allegations of maladministration, fraud, and corruption. And as a department, we'd like to think that we would take the serious matters and deal with them. We have a budget of 1 million rand for investigations, but we've already spent 6 million for the year, because you can't project how many investigations you're going to get. And in the adjustment estimates, then Treasury will make a request for additional funding for that particular purpose. We generally utilize also the team works on preliminary investigations. So we categorize the allegations as we get them, and we say, okay, we can handle this internally, or we then appoint forensic investigation firms. We have a panel of forensic investigators, which we then use. So there is dual capacity in terms of undertaking the actual investigations. The specialist capacity, yes, remains an issue. In recent couple of the recent investigations, we've had to identify that we need quantity surveyor skills. So that becomes part of the package. I would want to suggest, I'm not sure, Chair, maybe the report will work. We're fine to submit a report on the Municipal Integrity and Investigations Management Bill, but perhaps at the workshop we might be able to present it and have a conversation about it in a more pointed manner, but we'll be guided by you on that. And I think there's one question we didn't answer, was around the issue of, do we follow up on whether or not recommendations are implemented? And the answer is yes, we do. We do follow up as Cogta. We get regular reports by the municipalities. We actually seek the portfolio of evidence to support the implementation of the recommendations.
Acting HOD, I'm going to have to stop you there because of time. But I think what you've just mentioned about the follow-up reports that you receive from municipalities, I think we will defer it to the workshop, but at that workshop also provide us with that report of the feedback that you are getting from municipalities, whether they are enforcing the recommendations, implementing the recommendations. I just want to close by just making a few closing remarks. Now, when we were in Ngoma, we really complimented the department. All the members were very impressed with the additional report that we got at the late stage, but it was very informative and helped us understand our work in these Section 132 hearings. However, when it comes to the 2 reports that we received them yesterday. So our researchers and our analysts were not able to do justice to the reports. So I just want to appeal to the department to please give us those reports timelessly. And I've said this before, some of the reports we asked for, we don't have to wait till the next meeting or workshop. If you have them, you are able to get them to us, please get them to us timelessly. It makes our work very hard as members if we get the reports extremely late. The other thing is, we do understand that the department has financial constraints and capacity constraints. So we understand there's a lot that you can't do, but there's a lot that you can do as well. And one of the issues I want to raise is the issue of the proof of address letters in the KDM municipality that I wrote to the department about, to the MEC. That was written in December, if I'm not mistaken. We wrote in December, and only now have we received a letter to say that you will engage with the municipality to ensure that PR councillors now get this proof of address. So it's a little bit disappointing, because these are issues that we can deal with without any budget. So I just want to appeal to you to please respond timelessly to the correspondence that we send to the department and give us prompt feedback, because there are people that write to us that are waiting on responses. So that's just one of the areas that we need to tighten up on.
Thank you very much, Chair. And we really appreciate issues being brought to the attention of the MEC. I think on particularly the Kwadukuza one, we were also pulling our hair out because we have to rely on the speaker and the municipality. In all of the complaints we receive, we don't have direct access to municipal information to be able to respond immediately. So we have to, we wrote numerous times to the municipality, but we will certainly try to ensure that we follow. And we also have a limited role. We cannot direct a municipality as such or instruct a municipality to do something that is within their legal mandate. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Acting HOD. I do believe that there is lunch provided. Members, we will inform you of the dates of the workshops that we are planning. Please do drive safely, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and do join us for lunch. Thank you so much. The meeting is adjourned.